From now on, your paycheck goes into my account, Darren said, like he was telling me the weather. It'll just be easier. You've been forgetting things, Mom. I blinked. He was stirring his coffee like nothing was out of place. Like this wasn't the boy I raised on expired coupons and dented cans now asking for full control of my life. You don't need to worry about bills or balances anymore, he continued. I'll handle it. It's just more practical. I stared at him for a moment. At his smooth confidence. At the wedding band he hadn't paid for. At the car keys beside his cup, his third new car in 5 years. All from a man who once asked me to pawn my bracelet so he wouldn't miss rent. I nodded. He smiled, satisfied. Gave me a quick kiss on the top of my head. You'll see. It's for the best. He left shortly after saying they'd be back for dinner like always. Friday nights just like clockwork. They never asked what I wanted to eat. They never brought anything. But they always expected a set table, warm food lights on. That evening, I lit one candle and ate a sandwich in silence. The kitchen echoed. I liked the sound. Then came the knock. The door creaked open. Darren's voice floated in. Mom's silence followed. I heard his wife's heels hit the tile behind him, then her gasp. I didn't move. I sat in the only chair left in the living room. The walls were bare, the curtains gone. No couch, no framed photos, no TV. Just me and the folder on the table beside me. Mom, what is this? Darren stood there, his face twisted in disbelief. I looked at him gently like he was still 7 and just dropped a glass. I sold what I didn't need. Darren stepped forward like he owned the floor beneath him. Where's the TV? The furniture. What the hell happened? I didn't answer right away. I let the silence work. I asked you a question, he snapped. I met his eyes. I sold a few things. He laughed once sharp fake. A few. There's nothing left in here. I needed cash. For what? Just in case, I said. He looked around like he was seeing the house for the first time. His wife crossed her arms. Her face pinched. This is insane. Why would you do this? Because it's mine, I said. Everything in this house, I paid for it. That's not the point, she said. We come here every week to check on you, to keep you company, and this is what we walk into. You come here to eat, I said softly. You never stay long. Her face flushed. So now we're freeloaders, I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Darren walked up to the kitchen table and slapped his hand on the folder. What is this? You planning something? I looked at him and saw it, the twitch in his jaw, the shallow breath. Not worry, not love. Just fear. Fear of losing access. You're not well, he said suddenly. Maybe you need someone to take over completely, make decisions for you, before you do something dangerous. Dangerous, like selling a couch, I asked. His wife cut in. You're being irrational. This is why Darren's suggestion makes sense. You clearly can't manage everything anymore. He stared at me like he expected me to break, to cry, to apologize. Instead, I reached over, closed the folder, and slid it back toward myself. I'm tired. I think you should go. Lenora, he said, using my name like it was a warning. Don't do this. But I just turned my eyes to the empty chair across from me, the one where he used to sit as a boy, swinging his feet, asking for more lemonade. And then I stood up, quietly, calmly. I walked past them both and into the hallway where I kept the rest of the documents. I closed the bedroom door behind me and set the folder down on the bed. My hands shook not from age, not from weakness, but from something colder, something sharper. Inside the folder were statements I hadn't meant to look at again. But after tonight, after Darren's face twisted with fury, I had to. I flipped through the pages, pay stubs, bill receipts, and then I saw it again. A $1 $200 withdrawal from 3 months ago. I never took that money out. I would remember that. I remember every grocery list, every copay, every extra shift I've picked up, just to stay afloat. It wasn't online. It was a cash withdrawal, in person, at a branch across town. The date hit me like a door slamming shut. I remembered that day. I'd been home. I'd been in the shower. Darren had let himself in, just like always. My purse had been on the side table, my wallet inside. I hadn't even thought twice about it then. But now, the next morning, I went to the bank. The teller was young, polite. I asked for a printout of my recent transactions and pointed to the $1 $200 line. "Can you see which branch this was?" I asked. She clicked a few keys. "Yes, ma'am. This was done at our East Hill branch. Do you remember going there?" I shook my head. "I haven't been there in years." She frowned. "It was done with your debit card." I thanked her and walked out slowly, holding the receipt like a verdict. My card had never left my wallet except for that one afternoon. Back home, I sat at the table and opened the folder again. I added the receipt to the growing pile, labeled it, dated it. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't concern. This was theft. And as I reached for the next envelope marked insurance, I remembered the winter I'd been hospitalized and how my coverage had mysteriously run out halfway through. The insurance file had barely settled in my hands when I noticed another envelope, one I didn't recognize. Inside was a statement from a credit card company I'd never used. I frowned. I'd never applied for a card from that bank. I would have remembered. The balance was nearly $3,000. I traced the purchases: big box stores, electronics, home improvement. My eyes caught on a charge from a hardware store I'd never set foot in. Then another from a furniture outlet. The dates were from 2 years ago. That was when Darren bought their house. I pulled up my credit report online. Heart pounding. Pages loaded slowly, each line crawling like a warning. And then I saw it. My name on a utility account for an address I'd never lived at. Their address. The account had gone delinquent more than once. Late fees, penalties. All of it dragging my score down. Suddenly, it made sense, the rejection from the auto loan office when I needed a small loan for repairs. They'd said my credit was too risky. I'd left that meeting embarrassed, blaming myself. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the papers. My son had used my identity like a spare key. He hadn't just taken from me, he'd built a new life with it. A house, a television, a brand new washer I'd never seen but remembered helping pay for just until the next paycheck. It was all in my name, all of it behind my back. And still, he had the gall to say I wasn't managing things well. I reached into the folder and pulled out a yellow notepad. I started listing every account, every transaction, every lie. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew one thing: I wasn't confused. I wasn't irrational. I was being stolen from. I seasoned the chicken like I used to when Darren was 10, before school dances, before finals, before the first heartbreak he thought would ruin him. I cooked the rice just the way he liked it, fluffed and buttery. The house smelled like memory. They arrived right on time, like nothing had shifted, like he hadn't called me unstable 3 days earlier. Darren gave me that same half smile, the one he used when he thought he was keeping everything under control. His wife didn't bother pretending. She barely looked up from her phone as she sat down. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. No questions. No jokes. Just chewing, swallowing. Forks scraping ceramic. After he finished his plate, Darren leaned back and pulled a stack of papers from his briefcase. He placed them beside his napkin like a casual afterthought. "Mom," he said, smoothing the edges. "These are just the same as before. I brought a notary this time. It'll only take a minute." I nodded and picked up the first page. Full power of attorney. Access to every account. Medical decisions. Financial control. Total authority. I looked up at him, keeping my voice level. "I'm still thinking it over. I'd like a few more days." His smile faded. "Mom," he said, the calm tone gone. "You're making irrational decisions. Selling your furniture. Pushing us away. You need someone to look out for you. I folded the paper and slid it back toward him. And I need time. He didn't argue. He didn't have to. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. He gathered the papers slowly, as if that alone might change my mind. They stood up. No thank you for dinner. No goodbye. They walked out the door like strangers. I watched their backs through the window until the car pulled away. Then I washed the dishes by hand, dried them one by one, and pulled my notepad from the drawer. The list was growing, the folder getting thicker. And tomorrow I had an appointment. The office was tucked between a pawn shop and a closed-down diner. The sign read, Jonas Kerr, Attorney at Law, hand-painted in fading gold. I sat in the waiting room longer than expected, fingers brushing the corner of the manila folder in my lap. By the time I heard my name, my palms were damp. He was younger than I'd imagined, but carried himself like someone older salt at the temple's eyes that didn't flinch. He gestured for me to sit and asked what brought me in. I didn't start with emotions. I handed him the folder. Inside were the bank statements, the credit report, the utility bills, the letter from the collection agency, and 2 pages of my own notes. Dates, times, amounts. He took his time, read everything, didn't interrupt once. When he finally looked up, his voice was measured but firm. Ms. Gilroy, this isn't just unfortunate. It's illegal. What you're describing is financial abuse, and based on this we can act. Hearing it called by name abuse settled something in me. Not shock. Confirmation. He walked me through next steps. Filing a police report, locking my credit, closing compromised accounts, opening new ones under layers of protection. I signed documents I never thought I'd need to sign. Affidavits. Authorizations. Notices. It was like untying a knot that had lived in my chest for years. When I left his office, I didn't go straight home. I walked for 20 minutes with no destination, just moving through the October air. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was standing taller. By the time I reached my street, my phone buzzed. Darren. I let it ring. I didn't see the first post Bertha did. She knocked on my door that morning, holding her phone like it was a bomb that might go off. Have you seen what he's saying? She asked. I hadn't. But I knew it was only a matter of time. Darren had posted a photo of us, me holding him at age 5, his arms around my neck. My smile tired but real. I didn't even know he had that photo. The caption read, Sometimes survival means letting go of those who raised you in pain. Protect your peace. Another post followed the next day. This one was a photo of a candlelit dinner with his wife, wine glasses tilted in a perfect clink. Surround yourself with people who value your worth. Cut out toxicity. Heal. The likes piled up. So did the comments. Strangers praising him for his strength. Friends offering support for his difficult journey. A few neighbors I recognized, people who'd eaten at my table, clicked little hearts under his lies. I didn't respond. Not online. Not to him. Instead, I gathered everything. Every bank statement, every utility bill, every fraudulent charge with my name on it. I made copies and stacked them neatly in a folder marked primary. The originals went into my lockbox. The copies I walked across the hall to Bertha. She looked at me like she might cry. Are you sure? I nodded. If anything happens, you open it. That evening, I stepped into my small garden, the place I'd once tended with pride. But the chairs were gone. The wind chimes, the planter boxes. All sold off weeks ago, piece by piece, to make Darren believe I was desperate. He'd believed it. The garden was gone. But I was still standing. And that was enough. Because tomorrow, Jonas would file the civil suit. I heard their car before I saw it. The sound of the engine cut through the quiet afternoon like a blade. I didn't move until the knock came 3 times hard enough to rattle the frame. I opened the door just enough to see their faces. Darren's jaw was tight. His wife's arms crossed a look of rehearsed patience. "We need to talk," he said. "Then talk?" I answered. "Inside," he insisted. "This isn't a conversation for the porch. I'm comfortable right here." He exhaled sharply, glanced at his wife as if to say, "See what I'm dealing with," then leaned forward. "Mom, this has gone far enough. The things you're saying to people, the lies you're telling, do you have any idea how damaging this is?" "I haven't said a word to anyone," I said. "But my lawyer has." His face went still. "Your lawyer?" "Yes, the one who filed the reports. The one who has copies of every transaction you made in my name." His wife shifted. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's just confusion. You probably don't remember authorizing things. I remember everything I said quietly. You opened credit lines under my name. You used my insurance. You drained my savings. That isn't confusion. That's theft." Darren's expression changed, flickering between anger and disbelief. "You're not thinking straight. This is exactly why I wanted to take over your finances." "You need help, Mom." "No," I said, steady and calm. "I need restitution. Every cent. Within 30 days. Or the next letter you get won't come from me. It'll come from the courthouse." He laughed under his breath, but it wasn't confidence. It was fear trying to hide. "You wouldn't do that to your own son." I met his eyes. "You already did." He stepped back, the words hitting harder than I expected. His wife tugged at his sleeve. They turned, walked down the steps, and didn't look back. I closed the door, locked it, and placed my hand against the wood for a long moment. The silence that followed felt like ownership. The next morning, Jonas called. Jonas called to say the paperwork had been filed. His voice was calm, professional, but I could hear the weight behind every word. "They'll be served within 48 hours, he said. 2 days later, my phone began to ring. Darren, first then his wife, then an unfamiliar number with a firm, clipped voicemail. "This is Mark Hastings representing your son. We'd like to discuss a possible resolution." Jonas told me to wait, not to respond, until he reviewed their proposal. When he called me back that evening, he said what I already suspected. They didn't want this to go to court. Too public. Too humiliating. "They're offering repayment," Jonas explained. "Full amount plus damages. But you can ask for one more thing." I knew immediately what that was. "A statement," I said. "He needs to admit what he did." It took another week of silence before they agreed. On a Thursday morning, the post appeared on Darren's profile. A white background. Black text. A short paragraph written by his lawyer but signed by his own name. "I acknowledge that I made unauthorized financial decisions involving my mother's accounts and credit. I take full responsibility and regret my actions." No dramatics, no excuses, but it was enough. By noon, the comments began to shift. Friends deleted their earlier praise. A few left question marks. Others simply unfollowed. His wife's page went quiet. That night, the first payment arrived in my new account, 3,000 recess, labeled installment 1 of 6. The same amount came the following month and the one after that. Each deposit like a pulse, steady and exact. Jonas sent updates regularly confirming compliance tracking deadlines. He told me Darren's lawyers were efficient, careful not to miss a date. I thanked him every time, but I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. Justice doesn't feel like victory, it feels like breathing after being underwater too long. When the final payment cleared, I called the bank, closed the old account for good, and started searching for something smaller. Something with sunlight near the water. I wake when the light reaches the corner of the window. Not when an alarm tells me to. The mornings here smell like salt and warm pavement. A bakery is 2 streets over, and sometimes the wind carries the scent of rising bread. I walk barefoot to the porch, coffee in hand, and sit without thinking. That's the point now. There's nothing that needs immediate solving. No threats dressed as concern. The house is small. One floor. White shutters. Paid in full. No debts in my name, no utilities I don't recognize, no keys floating around in someone else's pockets. Everything inside it I chose. Everything here belongs to me. After breakfast, I water the flowers planted along the front fence. Yellow, red, purple, bright, defiant colors that would have clashed with Darren's wife's taste. That thought used to sting. Now it just passes. I keep the documents in a fireproof box in the back of the closet. I don't look at them anymore, but I don't throw them away either. Some things aren't kept to remember they're kept, so you never forget. The day the final payment landed, I knew before the alert buzzed. My body knew. Like something inside me had been waiting to exhale. The phone rang that night. His name appeared on the screen. I let it ring once, twice. Then I picked up. "Hi, Mom," he said. I said hello. Nothing more. There was a long pause. He asked how I was. If maybe someday we could talk. I thought about it. Truly. Then I told him gently, but without space for misunderstanding. That door's been closed, not out of anger, but peace. He didn't argue. He just said okay. And then the line went quiet. Now I spend my evenings the way I always said I would, on the porch, feet up, listening to the sea.